structure, if you will, of this architecture of origin, the human self, this incarnate, okay, also is part of your higher self. It is still part of your essence. Even as we view pain, we're viewing it through the lens of the identity. We're viewing it as the person who inflicted pain upon us. We never view it that person is also an essence. We don't view those painful moments while we're in it. Oh, it's a contract, essence to essence. Like, absolutely not. That person hurt me. He should be banished from earth. It's like the reaction of the identity is priceless because we really believe that pain exists. But without love, there'd be no pain.
Thank you, Nico, for joining us today. So great to have you on the channel.
Thank you, Laura. It's been an honor and a privilege to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And if you would start out just a little bit about your background and how did you get into doing trance mediumship?
Good question. Well, my journey didn't begin with mediumship. It began with questions about consciousness, identity, and why human beings experience themselves the way they do. So over time, mediumship and trance became less interesting to me as phenomena and more interesting as windows into how consciousness itself operates.
You didn't necessarily start out with it. What were you doing before trance mediumship?
I was actually a human. I'm just kidding. I was a I was a contractor in New York.
Okay.
I was also in finance. My college degree was in finance, and I was a contractor and I was a builder. And that was just the time that was profitable. And I've always felt essence near. I've had multiple moments and experiences throughout my life that I was never afraid of it. It's just that my religious background, my family, my friends, none of them resonated with it. So it was either speak my truth or, remain silent and continue to be accepted. So I chose the latter and I lived my life that way. But after a while, you just can't remain silent with so much that you know from your remembrance.
Right, right.
So
Yeah, and I think a lot of us we are open and then we kind of like get shut down through going through life. I know I had a lot of experiences as a child and throughout my lifetime and with not really knowing or understanding or having the right upbringing or training, I
yeah.
guess you could say. With the people around me, it brought fear, it brought a lot of other things, and so I really never dove into it because sometimes it was a little bit scary. Now, which I want to kind of get into before that, or maybe a little bit later in the conversation. Um, but you do talk about the architecture of
I
connecting.
have.
And
Yes.
you explain in a different way that other people do. I've gone through a lot of different trainings with different teachers, intuitive reading. After my near-death experience, I had worked on opening and building my innate abilities. And so I went into Reiki, trance healing at Arthur Findlay College. And everybody kind of has their own way of explaining it. And so yours is a little different that I haven't heard of. And maybe a lot of people haven't heard it either, except for those, if you've been on their show and you explain it on there. Could you just go over like a brief review of that?
Absolutely. So again, my one question that lingered with me for a long time is what if consciousness was never what we thought it was? Right? Because again, like you said, everybody has their own perception, their own language, their own belief, right? And that helped me begin to explore the relationship between awareness, identity, death, awakening, and what it means to be human.
Mm.
And of course, I was very involved in these near-death experiences, spiritual awakening, mediumship, trance, the human identity, the higher self, life after death. All of that was happening to me just over and over and over and over. And I realized that with trance, even though trance speaking and normal speaking is identical, with trance, in that trance state, I was noticing my identity's interference. That's the control. That I believe that's the only pure modality that allows you to notice interference and not follow it. And when you don't follow it, you are in that expanded field of consciousness. And that's where you remember. That's where
Mm.
your intellect is. Even on these podcasts that I've been on, and I'm grateful for that. A lot of people have been reaching out to me that they sense that they need to connect to me and they resonate with me. Even though that's flattering, that's not the case. We all have that beautiful resource of infinite wisdom as essence, as spirit. That's what was coming through. Clarity, intuitive thoughts, remembrance, that same exact field of wisdom. So I speak from that place. That's what I articulate. That's my architecture that I remember. And that's what people are resonating with. Something inside of them taps into their own remembrance and they feel it. It's that inner knowing. They know it's true without any more research. And then they just figure it's me, but it's not. We all have the same exact remembrance, every one of us, and just trusting it. Because again, the identity is really focused on certainty, right? The identity, people look at it like, okay, well, I'm this human identity and then I have my essence. That's so incorrect, right? Your identity is created by your essence. How? All of your life experiences are intentional. Every single relationship you've encountered, maybe a stranger or a loved one, all intentional. We don't create relationships on earth as we think we do. Even this, we perceive we're communicating human to human, but we're communicating essence to essence expressed through the human form. So everything is intentional that you, the higher self, your essence, has a hand in to create, to appear for you, the human self, to walk through it and experience it.
Right.
So that's the bottom structure, if you will, of this architecture of origin, the human self, this incarnate, okay, also is part of your higher self. It is still part of your essence. Even as we view pain, we're viewing it through the lens of the identity. We're viewing it as the person who inflicted pain upon us. We never view it that that person is also an essence. We don't view those painful moments while we're in it. Oh, it's a contract, essence to essence. You're like, absolutely not. That person hurt me. He should be banished from earth. It's like the reaction of the identity is priceless because we really believe that pain exists. But without love, there'd be no pain.
Mm.
Without the love of your essence, you wouldn't feel or experience emotion. Your brain can't generate emotion. It's not possible. So all the emotions we live in is the love of your essence. So love is the root of all experiences and all emotions. We view it as pain and we latch onto it. But what is really happening? Because of your identity, your essence, your higher self is able to experience the human incarnation and is viewing that same pain as another level, a degree of love.
Right.
Right? So now who is your higher self? It's you. It's your essence. It's the one that's governing this incarnation and multiple parallel ones that are going on at the same time. Because think about it, your essence is not connected or limited to any time or space or form, physical body. That's why the your essence is not in your body. It's anchored into the body through the interface of the breath. And that's exactly why when the baby's born into the world, there is no breath and is it only liquid in the lungs, then the breath appears. That's the interface. That's when your higher self says, okay, we're in. Let's go. Let's start the journey. Right? And again, it's so powerful. Essence is so powerful, so vast, it's limitless. So it's able to govern multiple parallel lives simultaneously. And when you feel like a, 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 um, a deep knowing that you've been at somewhere before, you just got there for the first time, it's because you are living it somewhere else. And you're feeling the emotion of your essence through that incarnation. That's how cross-conscious overlap is possible. And it's happening all the time. We just don't label it, we don't notice it. Our mind dismisses it as imagination. We just don't even bother with it. But it's happening. It's definitely true. It's part of consciousness. Again, who we are, where we are, essence, consciousness, all of it. So your oversoul is another component of your essence. This is the component that allows continuity to keep existing amongst all parallel realities. I don't want to say the timekeeper because there's no time,
Right.
but it's the one that's allowing expression of continuity. So even if you think you made a mistake or a bad decision, it's not because it was pivotal somewhere else. It also allows, that's the component of your essence that is also has a hand in split trajectories.
Hmm.
where you follow a decision at one point of your life, let's say married or didn't marry or whatever the case is, and it splits. So you continue on the trajectory that you made the decision, but the other line is the other decision that keeps going on at the same time. This is where your oversoul is very much has a hand in it, if you will. Also, this is what I refer to as the Akashic Records. I don't believe the Akashic Records is a library in the sky. I think we all have it as the oversoul, because that's also where all the wisdom is stored. And that's where all wisdom of incarnations is stored. Not details, not memory, but all the wisdom born of all those emotions that are the earthly emotions that are the underlining of love. Those are all stored, and that's where the true wisdom is. Then you have your perceiver, and the perceiver is the origin of your essence. This is where all essences are in this beautiful infinite field of consciousness of the creator, and we're all there. Every single essence ever created is there. The difference is that not all incarnate. So your perceiver based or perceiver origin essence is you consciousness who incarnates, and then you have the perceiver based origin of consciousness which does not incarnate, which should be angels, guides, other spirits that are also assisting you. Then you also have consciousness, which incarnate through the plants, animals, environmental, planetary, everything is consciousness around you, and they're all in the same field. So even when you have like a pet and you just love this pet, how many times have you loved somebody else's animal and just felt it was yours and you had a connection with this animal more than the owner did? Because
Yep.
these animals, the consciousness, they recognize you as essence from your specific energetic signature. We all have a specific energetic signature, just as every human has unique fingerprints. Same thing. So
Yep.
animals, especially, they don't incarnate the way you do. They go through a different structure and they kind of incarnate vertically, and they connect to all your parallel existences. So you might have a
Um,
dog in this life and have a dog in every single parallel life, or maybe a few of them, and they only incarnate to help you remember, especially through a specific time in your life. Dogs may be unconditional love, cats probably stillness, whatever it is for you. That's why you notice you always have an animal at the most critical part, transformative part of your journey, and you don't realize it until afterward, through hindsight. And
right.
that's what the architecture is, which is beautiful.
It is. And it kind of helps bring it all together, like
Yeah,
connects the dots for a lot of people who don't actually teach that way. And I think your way of teaching it comes closest to what I understand from my own journey. So I love that you have that message and that you share it in that way, you know. So because everybody has the ability, right, to
of
connect. It's
course.
just
Of
us, in our fear, our perspective, our belief. And when I try to tune in, and because I do a lot of channeling, um, I try to get myself out of the way and just allow it to flow, and because, like you said, I call it the ego, um, that you can call it the identity. It always gets in the way with our perceiving of the information, and we kind of can take it in a wrong direction.
Yeah, the identity is the overall picture. The identity is your name, is the character you're portraying, it's your roles, it's your title, it's who you're viewed as through various relationships. It's an overall component of the human self, the identity. The ego is part of that structure.
Hmm. Okay.
So is the conditioned mind. Everything is created. The ego is part of it. The conditioned mind, how you respond, how you think, what your actions are, all the relationship components, everything creates the identity, the human self.
Hmm. Okay. And then to try to put this in perspective, you mentioned the oversoul. Now, when I channel, they do talk about the oversoul. Now, is that just like an energy field or force around
It's
like
still
the human
you.
body?
It's still you. It's all of you. It's all of
Okay.
you. So even the energy around you, like when people experience near-death experiences, notice how their articulation is different.
Mm-hmm.
Their stories are different, similar but different. Some of them, what they do is the controlling identity is void, and they just in that field of consciousness, like a trance state, like a trance state.
Right.
That's exactly what near-death experience, out-of-body experience is. What you experience as a trance medium, identical. So what happens here is that they're just kind of they're reaching their higher self. And sometimes they describe it through limited vocabulary, but it sounds the same. Other times they go a little bit further and they're reaching their oversoul. And that's when you hear the different explanations. This is more vast. This is where this is vastness, and there is no time, there is no space, and there's memories of, or they're seeing themselves in different lifetimes. That's the oversoul. So the oversoul is also different oversouls, different structures of oversoul components. In other words, how I'm understanding it is my oversoul is an architectural oversoul.
Mm.
So in my this incarnation, I am resonating with architecture. I am speaking of consciousness. I am here to fulfill this person, this purpose. So I do write books. I do offer classes, courses. I do have an academy online. I am the channel for trance, for automatic writing, for whatever else they want. So I'm just a vessel because it's also has the underlining of the architecture. So everyone has a different, the oversoul provides different meaning and purpose for each incarnation. That just happens to be for mine.
Right.
But it's
Mm.
you as the oversoul, you as the higher self, and you as the human self is identical because you all start
Okay.
from the same. Your perceiver is the one who starts all of this,
Right.
so it's still you. The perceiver is also the witness, I call it, right? Which is, and each one remains in their perspective, view vantage points wherever they are. So the higher self does not come down and channel through you. But the higher self sends guidance through intuition constantly, nonstop, 24 hours a day. Your team, your spirit team, they're the ones who come through in trance. And even
Okay.
if I have a guide that's going to speak through me, there's multiple spirit essences that are assisting to keep harmonizing the field so the transmission is consistent, resonant, is perfect. Okay. That's what's happening. Your oversoul doesn't come down, if you will, either. It doesn't incarnate, it doesn't come down, send messages like the team, but it is the power hub, I call it, the source. It's like where everything is branched off from, and the higher self is branching, it's governing all these multiple parallel lives. You perceive as the witness. It witnesses all that's happening within this funnel of consciousness, if you will. It's also outside the funnel. So every time you've had those really difficult moments where you feel like you're at the end of your rope and there's no one around and you're weeping behind the closed doors. Notice you've always sensed the presence near.
Hmm.
That's you, the perceiver, witnessing it.
Okay.
It's a reminder you're not alone. You're meant to experience this. It's beautiful. And they all work
Yeah.
in harmony together, which is great.
Yeah. And I've had experiences where I'm like, I would just go sit on the beach and just be by myself. And it was almost like I'm observing this being behind me, looking through me from a
Yes,
different perspective. So it's me looking out at the ocean and then me seeing me sitting on the beach
exactly
watching the
right.
ocean.
That's
So I have
exactly
this
right.
third perspective.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you have that a lot, especially when you're in trance. You always feel that. At least I do, right? The higher self didn't accidentally create identity. I'm going back because a lot of people were conditioned to believe in separation, right? It was instilled intentionally with fear, so all those agencies sustain their control, and all the
Mhm.
religious institutions the same. All of it instills fear. Why? Because especially trance, it is the most powerful form of communication, the most powerful modality because you don't require an intermediary. So because so many people, humanity is believed to believe in separation, heaven, hell, I need to live my life and receive, salvation to go back to heaven and see my loved ones. Who's there when you get there? Did you see the family standing at the pearly gates? All of this is a beautiful Hollywood script, but it's not real. There's no
Mhm.
separation. So the higher self didn't accidentally create identity. Identity is the mechanism through which experience becomes possible. So the human identity is not the problem. Forgetting it is part of something larger. You see the difference there?
Right. Yeah.
The higher self creates and utilizes identity so that physical experiences can occur. When people say, "Oh, I can't stand this life anymore. I want to get out of here. I'm not going to ever come back." It, the identity in the human experience is not punishment. It's not separation. It's not a mistake. It's participation. So we're underestimating our role in that architecture, right? The
Mhm.
goal is never to escape being human. The goal is to participate consciously. So when you participate consciously, you know you're part of a broader architecture.
Right.
And then medium becomes interesting when you realize communication wasn't the phenomenon, consciousness was. Now
Yeah.
it's like you know everything you're doing is intentional, and who's behind the curtain helping you do this? It's so powerful.
It is, and it's interesting. And this has just been like a recent event, I'd say like the last few months. I've had a near-death experience in 2010, and it really hasn't been that much of an effect on me, though I remember coming back into body and being like, oh no, I'm here again.
Yeah.
But as time has unfolded and I've gone through life, and here we are, 2026, recently there's this thing going on, and I'm experiencing it and I'm observing it and being part of the play here. And it's like I can hear it's like this play going on and within myself here. And it's like part of me is like, I don't want to be here. And I'm hearing this vocabulary, I'm
Right.
hearing this mind and whatever is going on. And it's like, then this emotion arises. I just want to be back home. And it's like, who's saying that?
Right. Right.
And it's like I'm part of it. I'm like in the middle of this conversation that's happening. And then in comes this, I'm sorry for your suffering and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, who is having this conversation?
Yeah. That's,
It's really interesting dialogue that's happening.
yeah. Yeah. And that's again, a lot of that is your identity. A lot of it is your identity creating the dialogue because your identity's purpose is to try to keep you safe. That's what it's created to do. But it's only keeping you safe with this reference point of what it already knows in the subconscious mind based on your learnings throughout this life. Okay. So it's
Hmm.
creating an alternate dialogue to make sense while it's happening.
Hmm.
Right? Mediumship is less about obtaining information. You said coming back into the body. I hear that a lot. And when people are undergoing the development with mediumship, maybe evidential or trance, they're always trying to reach a destination, reach the spirit realm, obtaining information, organizing, using or utilizing all these formats that are in place, which is just another identity's creation, another perception of another identity. But mediumship is more about understanding how awareness receives experience, or how your attention receives the experience that appears within awareness. Right? So the communication is often already occurring. The challenge
Hmm.
is how much identity interferes with recognizing it. We don't come back into our body. We're never in the body.
Right.
See,
I guess consciousness being aware in the body, I guess, is the right way to say,
consciousness
because we're not actually in the body. Is that what?
Consciousness, right? Consciousness is already occurring. Awareness is already appearing. We're more in the death state than we are in the living state, if you look at it that way.
Mm,
Death is perhaps less of a disappearance of consciousness and more a change in how consciousness is organized. So that's how consciousness is. Perception, we become structured. A piece of our consciousness is structured through the human form to create an appearance of being alive in this incarnation. So there's no separation. We're still consciousness. We're still there. It never leaves. That's why there's no distant travel to heaven. Consciousness is all around. So your loved ones are still part of it. Because consciousness is not just your consciousness field doesn't just surround your body. Awareness is surround your body. It's as expansive as the entire sky, as the universe, as the solar system. You don't see it. The same way you look at the air, you look at the space around you. Oh, it's air. I breathe it. It's fine. That's you don't see it. How could you possibly know what it is? What if this is where all spirit energy is? So your loved ones are in your room at all times. You don't know.
mhm.
You
Yeah,
see, that's the difference. What survives may not be what we assume survives.
right. So, and that's a question I like to bring up when we have certain conversations like this, because yes, we have our loved ones, right, in life, our identity, our attachments to mother, brother, sister, father, as a human form. But once our conscious leaves the body on the other side, But if we have multiple lifetimes, we're not necessarily that being. But a lot of people believe or perceive that when we die, we're going to see them
Right.
on the other
That's right.
side, right? So how can we kind of let
Right.
go of that?
Right. Okay. Again, it's not the other side. It's everything happening at all times. Okay. There are multiple parallel lives because your mother, brother, sister, father, whatever, these are roles they're playing for this incarnation. You don't know who they are in the other incarnations. And this is going back to the near-death experiences, right?
Hmm.
People always come back and they ask, what did you see? No, the right question is, why do these experiences transform people? Most people return with less fear of death, or less attachment to identity, or more compassion, or more appreciation, right? But the transformation often matters more than the explanation. Because all
Yeah.
that is you just detached from the controlling identity. And you're in that field of consciousness and you feel the expansiveness and the love. But you're also recognizing what's occurring in multiple parallel realities. The same with trance. Trance is not losing control. It's awareness moving forward while the identity relaxes, right? Trance is not about leaving the body. It's about no longer gripping to it. And people
Right.
fear trance because they fear they're going to lose their body, an entity is going to possess them, they're going to be crazy, all this stuff that they're meant to believe and accept because that's the fear that's instilled across humanity.
Hmm.
But none of it's real. We don't go anywhere.
Right.
Nobody's greeting you because you're still whoever is your those roles in this life with the titles of mother, brother, sister, whatever, loved one, spouses, anything, you still have a covenant, a soul agreement, they say here, covenant, right? A
Hmm.
promise between essence to essence. So that promise does not just extend to one life. Even right now, Laura, we think we met each other. Our essences agreed for this to happen.
Right.
So we placed a time marker in our timeline to meet and have this beautiful conversation. How do you know that I'm not your son or you're not my daughter or we're not spouses or enemies or siblings in other parallel lives? You don't.
We don't. No.
So that's why you kind of go with soul recognition. I could feel a gentleness and a familiarity in your essence. And I know it's already happening somewhere else. We view everybody through the lens of the identity as another human being. What if we view them all as essence the way we are?
Hmm.
That's how you're receiving a lot more information, a lot more remembrance of what's actually occurring. And there's no fear.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's never death
Right.
because they're still
Um,
in that field of consciousness the way you are. They're just not
right.
expressing it through a form anymore, but they're very much interconnected with you. That's eternally. And that's why you're able to sense and feel your loved ones near you, see signs, receive intuitive messages, speak with them in your dream state because they never left.
Right. Right. Yeah, and a lot of different near-death experiencers have a lot of different experiences on the other side. I know I've had my own experience, and it's helped me to learn and try to put things into words because it's hard to term things, and really bring it to the truth of how we can maybe verbalize what's going on or understand it. Um, but and then one thing was like the void, like do you have any understanding about the void? Because everybody talks about the blackness, right? So do you know
What
where
do you
that
mean by
fits
that?
into the whole?
The void?
Have you heard of the void? So, like after my near-death experience, and I know I like with the verbiage. Okay, so we never leave the body because we're never in the body, but in the process that I went through, how I can only term it is as I was in that awareness, like I realized I didn't even have a body. And the only
Yeah,
thing that existed was blackness, right?
right,
And that's where I realized I wasn't the body. And then a light appeared it appeared as three beings within the light. And so then as I opened up into more of my telepathy, intuition, and my guidance, I was able to communicate and go into the light, into what appeared as the other side, right?
right.
Again, there's the verbiage, but it's not actually accurate in explaining it, but that's just the verbiage that we have. So do you
Right.
have any understanding of like the void and how that actually
Yeah,
happens?
yeah, absolutely. Okay. So yeah, you're exactly right. It's the verbiage, right? A lot of people describe the void as nothingness, like you said, emptiness, a black space, pre-creation, a source, or even a realm. Right? But I think the void is often interpreted as a place,
Hmm.
but I'm not convinced it is a place at all. Right? What many people call the void may actually be what remains when the usual reference points of identity, memory, time, and sensory experience are no longer organizing perception. See, when those structures fall away, awareness can encounter a kind of profound openness that the mind later describes as emptiness, nothingness, or the void,
Right. Okay.
right?
That makes
So
sense.
I've experienced states where identity became so quiet that the normal sense of self, time, and location no longer feel primary. What was striking wasn't the absence of experience, but the absence of the usual structures through which experience is interpreted. That's where I was speaking about trance and near-death experiences similar to the void. So I think the void becomes frightening when identity encounters it, because the human identity naturally seeks reference points,
Hmm.
continuity, and definition. So when
Right.
those disappear, it can feel like annihilation, right? But many people who move through those experiences later describe profound peace, clarity, or even freedom, right?
Hmm.
So the void may not be the absence of consciousness, it may be the absence of identification.
Okay.
And if you break it down, those two are very different things,
Right.
right?
That makes sense because you're leaving because yeah, they said to me to drop my human self, right?
Right,
My attachment to that and then to go into the next
right,
delight. Yeah. So yeah,
right,
that makes sense.
right. And I wouldn't even say that the void is the same as death, right? Because when they say near-death experiences, it's not, it has nothing to do with death. I think many people conflate the void with death because both challenge our assumption about identity.
Mm,
But the deeper question isn't whether the void is death. The deeper question is what remains when the structures we normally call me become quiet, right? What fascinates me about the void is that people often describe it as nothing, yet they return profoundly transformed by it. So that suggests there may be far more present there than the mind initially realizes. Hmm?
hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And with I want to kind of get into the topic of because you had a life before, and I did too. So I had a whole life before what I'm doing now, you know. So what you do now is not what you did before. And so would that lead to say that, or maybe connect that our souls have a certain purpose versus our
Oh
human
yeah.
self has a different purpose? Because a lot of people will
Well,
be like, well, my purpose is to go out and teach or might teach kids or, do marketing. But like, it's almost like, would our souls really want to do that? You know what I mean? Because I channel, but I also have the human
good.
stuff where I have to actually go to work and make money. you
Well, why
know,
can't you make money channeling?
but But I guess I would have to do it more for people in a session than versus writing, because generally I just write and channel and then share it, but I don't necessarily do it in sessions. So,
Ah, you should. So you do more automatic writing through channeling
hmm.
than trance speaking.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's break this down, okay? Human purpose is usually what identity is trying to accomplish within a lifetime. What is human purpose? Raising children, building a business, writing a book, becoming a teacher, creating art. Healing relationships is huge, right? Helping others, contributing to society. So human purpose is often specific, measurable, role-based, based on who you are, and time-bound,
Mm,
right? And it changes. So at 20 years old, which was like what, 9 years ago for you, your purpose, your purpose may seem different than at 60. So human purpose is the expression. All right.
got it.
Soul purpose. This is deeper. It isn't necessarily what you do or what career you choose, and it's definitely not what title you carry. It's more about what qualities of consciousness are being explored, developed, and expressed through the life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Compassion, courage, surrender, trust, forgiveness, difficult,
Right.
creativity, service, love, authenticity, easy, right? Based on the
Right.
lens of the identity. So, soul purpose is not, I am here to become a lawyer. Soul purpose may be, I am here to learn responsibility, service, and integrity. The lawyer, though, becomes the vehicle. See, and
Right.
this goes back to the architecture. Human purpose is what identity is doing. Soul purpose is what consciousness is learning, your higher self, your oversoul perceiver, learning through what identity is doing.
Mm, right.
See? Two people can have identical human purposes, both become, let's say, teachers, yet their soul purposes may be completely different, right? While they're teachers in the human incarnation, one may be learning confidence and the other may be learning humility, but the profession is the same. The deeper movement is difference,
Makes
right?
sense.
The higher self is not primarily concerned with what role you choose, right? The higher self is interested what becomes possible through your role. So the higher self may not care whether you become a carpenter or contractor like me, a medium like I am, a nurse, an author. It cares more about what is discovered, what is integrated, and what is expressed through that experience,
Right.
right? So look, many people spend their lives looking for the perfect purpose. I even have a lot of them that schedule a trance session and they're asking, Spirit, my team, to tell them what the purpose is. But what if purpose is less about finding the right role and more about fully participating in the life already unfolding, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Human purpose is often about what we're trying to accomplish. Soul purpose is about what consciousness is becoming through those accomplishments. One is path, the other is the deeper reason for walking it.
Right. Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I've had because I've done coaching in the past, and I've had people ask me what is my purpose, right? And so it's hard to explain that to people sometimes, that it's not always what you think it is.
Yeah.
You know.
And
Um,
and now they had the explanation, so rewind and play it again.
yep, I'll have to direct them to this conversation. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Um, and so also with the topic, the multiple lives, because you
Oh,
had
I
mentioned that
love
we do
the
have
parallel
multiple.
lives.
Mm-hmm.
I love
Yeah,
that. How about
yeah.
you? What do you think
I
about that?
do. Yep. And I had, so in this lifetime, I had boys. And for whatever reason, my soul really deeply wanted a girl, right?
Ah,
And in that, when I found out, not that I don't love boys, but there was this very deep emotional experience that arose. And I'm like, why am I so emotional over this? Like my soul wanted to experience a girl, having a girl daughter, right? A daughter. Later on, and this was a while ago. Um, and then like last year, the year before, like I had this experience where I was standing at not in this human version of myself, but me observing myself with a being, another observer here next to me, whether it was my spirit guide or whoever it was. And we were observing this world that was going on. And it was this mother and this daughter. And I'm going to have to say that it felt like that was my daughter, but in a different life.
Right. 100%.
Yeah.
And maybe even your sons are the same essence as your daughter in another life. That's why you feel
Oh,
the resonance to it, right?
they were
So,
about the same age, actually.
right, parallel realities is more like consciousness, identity, and participation. I
Hmm.
think I think people often imagine parallel lives as multiple versions of me running around in different realities. But what interests me more is the possibility that consciousness may be expressing itself through more than one experiential stream simultaneously. You understand?
Hmm. Yeah. Now,
Identity, I'm sorry, go ahead.
oh, go ahead.
No, it's okay. Identity assumes it is the whole story because it experiences one life at a time. But if consciousness is larger than identity, it raises the question of whether identity is the entirety of experience or simply one localized expression of it. See? And
Hmm.
when people ask me if parallel lives affect each other, what you just said now about your experience. Some people report experiences that feel as though information, emotions, talent, fears, or patterns are not entirely contained within the personal story they currently identify with. Right? Whether we interpret that as parallel lives, deeper layers of consciousness, or something else, I think the more important question is what those experiences reveal about the interconnected nature of awareness.
Hmm. Yeah.
You see,
Yeah. Hmm.
my current perspective is that consciousness may be capable of participating in more than one experience simultaneously. So the challenge is that identity tends to interpret everything through linear time, while consciousness itself may not be operating as linearly as we assume,
Right. Right.
right?
Because
Perhaps
we're focused in this lifetime.
exactly with the
Right.
linear time, exactly. Perhaps consciousness is not trying to become many things. Perhaps it is exploring many perspectives of itself simultaneously,
Right.
right? The question is not whether another life exists somewhere else. The question is whether consciousness is larger than the single identity currently asking the question,
Hmm. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So if we have that connection to other lives going on, and I know that we do pre-plan our lives, for each incarnation. Um, do do you suppose that maybe with the multiple lives we are like maybe I don't want to say manipulating or changing or still redefining or changing our lives because if we have already pre-planned a life, right? And then we have multiple lives going on, are we still communicating to say, well, I'm going to change this and I'm going to do this and you're going to do this? Are we still like like
See,
planning our lives as we go in
it,
the life?
it's yeah, it's great because even thought appears within awareness. So the thought is not yours. It's created by whatever happened with the human system. It's created, activated, and appears within awareness, and we notice it. So even think about that. Okay, if I know there's parallel lives, I'm going to alter my journey right now and do this instead and see what happens. See if there's some kind of a break in the quantum continuum or whatever you want to call it. That thought appeared for you to have that shift. So you think you changed the course, but it's still your essence who allowed that thought to appear for you to change the course. See, it's
Mm-hmm.
not me, the identity. That's what we believe. It's still me, the essence. So you're
Right.
not redirecting. You're still following a course as it's intended. because all the parallel lives are also benefiting from your decisions or your altering of your course or whatever the case is. Somebody said to me now, well, that's really horrible that I have no control of my life. I'm like, you're still your essence. That's who's controlling the life. You're not the identity. I say this repeatedly. The identity is a character being played. Your essence is the actor. Why are we defining ourselves by the character and forgetting the actor?
Right.
And that's going back to the oversoul. That's who's holding the continuity between all parallel realities because it's the same essence. So even that, maybe perhaps, another parallel reality is, I don't know, very confused and unloved and on a downslide. And this way, you're the one that's happy and loving, and you're able to hold more. So you're kind of like redirected to change your course a little bit. So then that could lift that one back up. We don't know what's happening. It's still one essence. We don't
Right.
have to know what's happening. We just worry about our own timeline and this
Hmm.
identity and softening it and then receiving clarity and continuing to live the incarnation as your essence, which is the purpose.
Right. Yeah.
Even before when you said, "Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna do channeling, but I write for a living." Look how fast the identity sat in there and rejected it. Just jumped right in. No, it's not worth it, no money. But how do you know? You might change in the next 6 months. Maybe you're feeling more of a pull to it, a yearning. Maybe you just feel that love. Maybe you're in that expansive state and you receive enough clarity that, yeah, it's definitely part of my journey, and I need to start this now. Because I'm going to write
Hmm.
about it. I'm going to bring in my team through trans channeling on my own podcast. You don't know what's going to happen.
Right. Yeah.
But the
Yeah,
identity is quick to dismiss it, isn't
it is. It's like, nope.
it?
Yeah. And I've gotten hints about, doing like public speaking and doing things like that. And I'm kind of like, this voice comes in. It's like, yeah, no.
Yeah, that's the identity. And again, same thing.
Hmm.
Awareness, identity, participation, and the possibility that consciousness is far larger than the single life we currently experience. If we keep that as our main focal point, you notice when the identity is trying to reject it. Because you know there's something, you're living in that state that you know there's something more, something expansive. You're part of a collective. Even though you're one essence, you're part of the collective consciousness. We're all interconnected. That's the participation, and you realize that even the identity is part of that, and we don't have to continuously be drawn to the identity as the core of creation.
Right. Right. So the identity has a fear when it comes in and says no.
Yeah, well, again, the identity is it's doing its role, it's doing its
Right.
job. It's referencing all that you have learned through this incarnation, which is stored as snapshots in the subconscious, and it's going just through that. It's going through the file cabinet constantly. Wait a minute, no, channeling, no, 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 that's fear. People reject it. She's gonna not have any, she won't have any money. She's gonna be mocked. No, okay, fear it. Throw it in. It happens so fast, you have no idea what's happening.
Right.
It's just
Yeah.
basically going, if you were taught in first grade that trance is very powerful, you'd be a trance medium by now,
Right. True.
right? So it's all part of the conditioning, and that's all intentional because not only does it help with the awakening or remembrance being so profound, you're recognizing the importance of the identity to
Right.
live that life based on the conditioning. And then above all that, you realize, hey, it's my higher self that did this. It's my essence that created every single opportunity. My higher self, my oversoul, my perceive, all of me c- created every single possible outcome that I lived, every decision, every relationship. It's all already been agreed to, and I just lived through it as the human self, which created my identity. And that's how all of my architecture of my essence is able to experience the human incarnation, but more
Hmm.
intimately your higher self, because that's where you're receiving insight. And the higher self
Right.
also has a role where it's translating the profound oversoul wisdom into human comprehension. So
Right.
it's a beautiful journey,
It
and
is.
playing the role of the human self is amazing.
It is. Like it's like poof.
Yeah.
When you kind of can grasp it, right? So And as you were talking, I'm thinking, okay, like life planning, we have options because like we know all the different possibilities. And so to me, and it was just popped in like, okay, maybe our multiple lives are playing out those possibilities, and that is our different lifetimes.
Right, exactly, because you don't have a right or wrong decision.
Right,
There's no failure. There's no pass fail. There's no failure.
right,
We perceive
exactly.
it as such as a human. And that's
Hmm.
because of those relationships we lived through where we didn't feel love. We felt less and we tried to prove ourselves. So then, because we experienced that through those lessons, it allows our identity to tap into that as its resource in the subconscious and make you feel like, oh, what a mistake this is. And I can't be a medium. I don't have the ability. I can't connect. And I can't keep any relationships because I'm not worthy. And my jobs, I must be stupid. All this happens because of those experiences that you endured throughout this incarnation, which were agreements. It
Right,
all ties into each other to create how you react as the identity. But in that moment, in that precise moment where someone's struggling with self-worth, if they just pause and say, you know what? It's my essence which creates the identity in order to experience the incarnation. So I'm really not struggling with self-worth. It's a perceived viewpoint of my identity. So I can feel this emotion, which is still love. And then my
right.
essence is receiving it in a different degree of love. You know how humanity would embrace themselves even more so and not struggle with self-worth or depression or addiction? Overnight, overnight, the change happens. So
Hmm.
that's why, Laura, we have a powerful role to get the word out to people
Yep. Yeah.
continuously over and over and over.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why I love what you bring to the table because it's definitely a different way to look at it, and a lot of people don't see it from that perspective. Um, and then so also, okay, so we have double gangers, right? Have you heard this expression?
Yeah.
So most of my life, I would say 50 times somebody told me they know somebody who looks exactly like me. Is that another aspect of ourselves, or it just happens to be somebody who looks like
You
me
know
to
that
them?
that's a beautiful question because again, this is where that parallel realities shift to a different lens,
Mm,
right? Again, you're based on a timeline. The timeline. This is the timeline that you know. It splits. As there's no time, it splits.
right,
So maybe that person met you in a different timeline. You see, but then again, how thin is it? You don't know.
right.
So maybe that person did not actually run into you, Laura, in a different timeline break, maybe something that looks like you. So this is where it gets really, you know, there's too many possibilities, too many, right? If you look at it now in folklore and spiritual traditions, there's stories of doubles or apparitions or second selves, right? That's
Right.
historically these experiences were viewed as omens or spirit manifestations or symbolic encounters. So many memory distortions, mistaken identity, pattern recognition, dreams, or altered states blending with waking memory. So many things happening here, right? What fascinates me is less whether a literal duplicate exists and more why these reports appear across cultures and time periods,
Mm,
right? Because they invite us to question assumptions about identity and localization, right? So when people
right.
hear the word doppelgangers, they often imagine a second physical version of themselves somewhere, right? So
Yeah.
now, what interests me more is what these stories reveal about identity, right? We tend to assume that who we are is completely contained within a single body, single location, moving through a single timeline, right? As we talked about. Experiences like these challenge that assumption, whether the explanation ultimately turns out to be psychological, symbolic, or something we don't yet fully understand.
Right.
So I think people have real experiences, absolutely, And that's why I said it opens the door to many possibilities. So the harder question is how we interpret those experiences. I've become less interested in immediately explaining unusual phenomena and more interested in what they reveal about consciousness, perception, and the way we construct our sense of self. So the mystery may not be that another version of us exists somewhere. The mystery may be how narrowly we define ourselves in the first place,
Right.
right? A
Exactly.
different twist on this, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because even somebody, it was, I think probably about a month ago, somebody said they texted me. They're like, "Hey, we're at Disney too. Where are you? Let's meet up."
Uh,
I'm like, "I'm at
uh,
Disney. I'm working."
yeah, 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 yeah.
They're like, "I could have sworn it was you, and you dipped around the corner." I'm like,
Yeah.
um, am I
Yeah,
like
because
showing up in a different realm?
yeah, my sister just sent me last week some like five, six photos of some kind of an entertainer. I didn't even know who it was. And she's like, what? This is crazy. This is you. And I looked at the pictures. I zoomed in on it. Okay, there's a resemblance, but I could see where it's not me.
Yeah,
You see?
yeah.
Resemblances are resemblances.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I kind of want to touch back on like we kind of already said we all have innate abilities. So
Abilities?
abilities, senses, sensories, psychic and medium, clairs,
Do we
mediumship
really have
channeling.
abilities?
Huh?
Do you really think we have abilities?
It's our natural state. That's how I look at it. That's our natural state that we have the ability to do it. So I just call it abilities, I guess, our innate abilities, our
Natural
true
state,
abilities.
natural state as essence, you mean?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So we term it though through like the senses, like the clairs, the third eye, our telepathy, we try to term it through words to understand it.
Yeah,
Um, so I've talked to a lot of people where they're like, well, I'm only a psychic, I can never be a medium, or I'm a
yeah.
medium, but I can never be psychic. Can you kind of talk to that and or can we open to or connect to all of them?
Yeah, okay. So I think many of the abilities people seek are not actually required, they are uncovered. So the assumption is often that we must become something extraordinary to access intuition, mediumship, healing, or deeper awareness, right? My experience has been the opposite. The more we relax the structures that constantly filter, interpret, and interrupt experience, the more natural these capacities appear. Think about
Right.
this for a moment. A child doesn't usually have to be taught curiosity, imagination, presence, or openness. Those qualities are already there. Over time, we develop layers of conditioning, identity, expectation, and fear. So much of spiritual development is not adding something new. It's recognizing what has always been present beneath those layers. And again, this goes back to the architecture. The higher self doesn't need to become intuitive. The higher self doesn't need to learn awareness,
Hmm.
right? Those qualities are already intrinsic. What changes is the degree to which identity allows those qualities to express themselves through the human experience, right? Now,
Right.
again, let's break it down again. Human ability versus natural capacity, right? The human ability is developed, is practiced, is learned. That's why we think, we're conditioned to believe we need to acquire our gifts, our abilities, unlock them. But natural capacity is inherent, present, recognized. So mediumship, intuition, and even trance may be less like learning a new language and more like remembering one we have been speaking quietly all along, right?
Hmm.
I think everyone has access to awareness, intuition, and deeper perception. The
Right.
expression varies, though. Not everyone becomes a musician, even though everyone has the capacity to hear music, right? In the same way, not everyone becomes a medium, but everyone participates in consciousness.
Mm.
So the question may not be what abilities do we gain when we awaken? The question may be what naturally emerges when we stop interfering with what we already are. What do you think about
Yeah,
that?
I like it. I love that. Um,
And
yeah,
one more
because
thing, I'm sorry.
yeah,
The
like
clairs are not how spirit communicates to you. The clairs are how your identity translates the perception that already appears. I'm sorry, you may
makes sense.
continue.
Hmm. Yep. Yeah, and it's like I feel like with the channeling and being open and just kind of getting out of the way, with the identity, the ego, that we all have that ability, to just connect and receive the information. And there was a point in time where Spirit was like, okay, stop doing it for them and teach them.
Yeah,
Right.
there
So
you
allow
go.
them to do it themselves because otherwise we're always going to be teaching them to remember who they truly are, which really doesn't
Yes,
make sense, right? And so it's just helping them, and that's why I like this conversation because it kind of falls in line with that, it's helping yourself to remember,
right. That's
have
all
the
this is.
mm-hmm,
Right. The human will use the terminology human ability. Your essence knows its natural capacity. There's a difference,
mm-hmm,
right? But you're right. Remembrance is the journey. And
right.
that's why you serve a very vital role in this incarnation with your beautiful podcast.
Thank you. And you as well.
Thank you.
And I kind of want to bring that too. So if people wanted to start tuning in for themselves and not going through others all the time to do it, uh, and they fear like entities or
Yeah,
negative
why?
spirits, like what would you share with them about that?
Why? Why? Why do they fear him?
That entities are going to get them, or there's some kind of evil being out there, that's going to affect them or make them do things. That people have talked a lot about that. It's evil, it's bad, you shouldn't do that. And I think that plays into religion too, because they teach that.
Exactly. That's the fear.
Hmm.
That's the fear. One of the biggest obstacles I see in spiritual development is fear. Many people become so focused on protecting themselves from negative energies that they never fully explore their own awareness, right? That doesn't
Hmm.
mean that people don't have difficult experiences. They do. But I found that many experiences attributed to external entities can also arise from fear, expectation, trauma, anxiety, suggestion, or the way the mind interprets the unknown. That doesn't mean that there's negative energies, right? My own experience has not led me to view consciousness as a battlefield filled with forces trying to overpower us. I see awareness as fundamentally more stable and far less fragile than many people assume.
Hmm.
You see, people often think awareness is weak. The unknown is powerful. That's what their distinction is, right? But reverse it. The deeper I explored consciousness, the less I found reasons to fear it. So I personally don't spend much time on protection rituals because they can unintentionally reinforce the belief that awareness is vulnerable.
Hmm.
I place far more emphasis on clarity, steadiness, and understanding than on defense. So when people become frightened, they often begin interpreting every unusual sensation as evidence of an external force, right? Fear can become a lens that shapes perception. I think many people are trying to protect themselves from consciousness when what they really need is to understand it.
Right.
The
So it's to
unknown,
say, like, your identity is trying to protect itself from the awareness, from higher awareness.
right,
Because then what would
exactly.
happen to identity?
Right, exactly. That's the defense. Exactly right.
Hmm.
The unknown becomes much less frightening when we stop assuming it is against us.
Hmm.
That's how you remember your essence. That's the remembrance you stated. The goal is not to become fearful because nothing uncomfortable ever happens. The goal is to become steady enough that fear no longer determines how we interpret every experience. That's remembrance.
Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. And I realized that, like, because when I was younger, I did have some things that did scare me. And, of course, you go right to the mind, the fear and what's going on because you don't understand it. But I've had some experiences.
Yeah,
Now, does that say that there is no negative energies or spirits or anything around us?
I don't
'Cause
believe that.
no.
I don't think so at all. I think it's different energies too. I think your human body has its own energy resonance, as does this reality that we perceive as real. I think your essence has a much higher vibrational frequency, and I think all essence is love. And
Hmm.
every single time I connect with essences, because even in the trance sessions that I offer, not only is it my team that speaks to me, it's other people's loved ones, it's other people's guides, and I've never once felt anything less than unconditional, powerful love, ever. So I don't believe there's any negative energies whatsoever. And I do believe that it is based on the subconscious, what's stored in there, and those fearful moments. Because again, what is fear? Fear is the unknown. So even as a child or growing up through life, if you don't understand something, it frightened you until you understood it, then it didn't. Any horror flick you've ever seen, you were terrified watching it. When it was over, the fear left because now it has meaning. So the
Hmm.
identity is constantly searching for the meaning. And when it doesn't have it, it's going to just press the fear button. That's
Right.
all. That reminds me of that that animated movie. What was it again? Where it was a little girl and she had fear and love, all these little parts of her that they were in the control room. Was it No Way Out or something like that? I forgot the name of it. So my
I think
daughter,
I know what you're talking about. I just don't remember the name of it. Yeah.
yeah, and fear. Click the button. It's the same thing with identity. It clicks buttons. Let's go with fear. Let's go with this. It's just how it is. It's a
Yeah.
reaction. It doesn't mean it's real.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, because they have a lot of scary movies out there that I watched when I was younger, like Poltergeist and things like
Yeah,
that. And um, I mean, I had experiences. Now, whether it was true and accurate, you
yeah.
know,
And
um,
again, as I said earlier, I've always sensed the essence of my team. I used to
mhm,
outrun it. I used to think it was a negative energy, a negative spirit chasing me. Of course, you're going to think it. That's the only reference point I had. That's what I
right.
was taught. Those are the movies that I watched, Poltergeist and all that. I thought that's the same thing. It's just misinterpretation
Hmm.
because it's based on what your identity has as a reference, whatever you've experienced. That's why we have limited education, limited understanding. That's why so many courses are just the same curriculum passed down from generation to generation for 200 years, and it doesn't mean it's still accurate. It's
Right.
not courage to speak radically or teach outside the box or whatever. It's just that's remembrance, and that's what humanity needs right now. That's why we're all popping up all over the place, all over the
Hmm.
world.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
see?
And like right now is like going through the whole Great Awakening, a lot of things are coming up and, being revealed. Even like with the whole, I guess there was like a pope or something who just made an announcement. He feels like AI, not to kind of get off topic, but they're like, okay, well, AI is going to, take away religion. I guess because it's the control, right?
Right.
And people are starting to be able to research and understand themselves and find out, that they can step outside of religion and
Absolutely
connect
right.
themselves. They don't actually need the church, the teachings, they can do it themselves now.
Absolutely right. Absolutely
Mhm.
right. It's just another tool to remember. AI is not your essence,
Right.
nor has any access to your guides or your essence the way people project,
Hmm.
because it's still a machine that you input information to.
Yeah.
You see, your essence, connection to essence, it so remembers because you are that essence. You are that breath. That's the reminder daily.
Yeah.
Just trust who you are and don't fear it. Honor the identity, for it does serve a vital purpose once more, so your essence can experience the human incarnation, but it never should define you. And that's how people return to their essence.
Right.
I
It's
think we're going to
beautiful.
have to schedule another episode to bring in my team for trance.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll have them as your guests for the whole time.
Yeah, definitely. We'll definitely do that. Want to be respectful for your time. And is there anything else that you feel would be helpful to share today?
Oh, geez, what are these questions? You're just throwing them out. They're all wonderful questions. Look at you.
Thank you.
You've been doing this for a while, I see, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a few months.
A few months only?
Yeah.
Wow, I thought you'd be there for at least a few years.
Oh, wow.
Because I've already seen your podcast around.
Hmm. Yeah. I started out
Oh,
channeling myself all the writings that I would get, and I started sharing them on the channel. And then Spirit was like, okay, can you start bringing some people on and having the conversations and just get the information out more? I'm like, okay.
good for
So they're
you.
trying to urge me into,
Good for you.
stage and being public. And I
Good
guess
for
this is
you.
the process as it unfolds.
Good. You're doing great. That's alignment with your purpose. So again, as I mentioned earlier, when my cousin passed and all these phenomenons occurred, right? After a while, the deepest realization for me wasn't that consciousness continues after death. It was that consciousness may be far larger than we assume while we're alive, right? And if that's true, then perhaps the invitation isn't to become something else. It's to become more honest, more present, and more available to the life we're already living, right?
Right.
Many people are not collapsing, they are reorganizing. The higher self did not create identity by mistake. The goal was never to stop being human. The goal was to stop believing the human self was all that we are. And that's what I would leave to all your listeners. You're,
Beautiful. Love
you're
it.
much more than you think you are. You are essence.
Thank you. If somebody wanted to book a session or take some of your courses,
Yeah, they can
where
find
can they find you?
everything on NikoTheMedium.com, NIKO TheMedium.com. I made it easy. They're also welcome to join the free weekly circles that I offer Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. One is trance development, one is evidential development, and Sunday's a nice open talk that I throw out a mind-bending question and we just expand our thinking. And they could also just, go on the website and schedule a 30-minute free consultation if they just want to ask questions and guidance. I'd be more than happy to help them any way I possibly can.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us today, Nico. It was great having
Thank,
you.
thank you, Laura. I really had a beautiful time.
Thank you.
It
You're
was an
welcome.
honor.
And
I'm
we'll
looking forward
definitely
to the
schedule
next
you
time.
for a full trans
Yeah,
trans session. So everybody
absolutely.
keep in tune for that.
Just remember, guys, you met me first. So when my spirit team is your favorite, remember you met me first. That normally happens. People like me, but then they love Noah. And then they ask Noah to continue appearing and they forget about poor little old me. I'm just kidding.
Oh, you're the beacon, you're the
That's
channel.
exactly right. I'm the vessel. Right, right,
Yeah. Without you, it wouldn't be. So
right.
you're important. So thank
Yeah,
you.
I'm just teasing. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Laura. It's been a pleasure.